Thank you. Thank you, baby. So I wanted to say also, I don't remember if it was right before or right after you invited me to participate in this. I had a therapy session in which I was sharing with my therapist something that I had overcome. I was pretty proud of myself. And in that session, she was asking me questions that I felt like were trying to extract an emotional response from me. I got really irritated. And so afterwards, I was thinking, okay, well, what is it that I am looking for? What was I looking for with sharing that? And what am I looking for in a therapist? What am I looking for? Period. And it must have been right after you invited me for this. And a witness came to mind. Because I just wanted someone to see me, to see me and to hear me at that time. And I just felt like that uh it's just very powerful. This whole project that you're doing is very powerful. So thank you for inviting me to do this. And thank you all for being witnesses. So hi, I'm Lorraine. I'm going to talk about how grief led me to create a community of healers and spiritualists by hosting a monthly grief support group. Um, the way that my story is going to go, it's going to be in timeline format. Um, I a common experience with grievers is that we think time often feels like a blur. Um, Events mesh together. So even the practice of of creating a time, like writing out this story for you all and writing out the dates when this happened and that happened was something that was very healing for me. Like even just this process of making a timeline was very healing for me. So I appreciate you all for being here and listening to my timeline. And we're going to start with March 2020. March 2020 is when this journey began with a phone call early in the morning of March. Again, I don't know the exact date. That'll come up often. I don't know the exact date, but early in the morning of March, at the end of March, I got a phone call from a friend that one of my best friends died. Um, the next couple weeks are a blur. I don't remember exactly what happened, but I do remember that pretty soon after that we had gone into lockdown because of COVID. I remember this time feeling. I remember screaming in my head when I think about that time after I heard or after I learned that my friend died. I heard screaming in my head. That's that's what the grief felt like to me. It's just screaming, and it didn't really let up. There was a time a couple weeks later where I was able to go to a an event with local Black women, entrepreneurs, and artists. They were opening up in a shared space, a collective space, and there was a priestess there to bless it. I don't remember what her tradition was. It was some African traditional practice, but at some point during the night, we ended up having an intimate conversation, and I told her about my grief, and I told her about the screaming, and she asked me what my like my spiritual space setup was in my house, and I told her where my altar was. And she asked me if I had my friend's picture on it, and I said yes. And she gave me some advice about what to do with that. And I took it, and I mean, within a couple days, and the screaming had gone. And at that moment, at that time, I realized that I was really looking for a supportive community, a supportive spiritual community, some spiritual advisement with my personal practice. Uh, but my practice is just it's so daggone personal that there's only so much advising I can do really. But I knew that there was something I was missing something in community there. Fast forward a couple more months in July 2020, I actually was baptized into the faith of my husband's faith, which is Orthodox Christianity. And with that came a godmother, a woman that I had grown close with in the church, someone that I felt close to and connected with. She became my godmother. And we began to get a little more close, just speaking about things that weren't even really spiritual, just in life, just an older woman, a woman that was a little older than me, more of like an aunt who I could relate to and talk to. It was something that I really needed at that time. Fast forward to the end of that year, the very end of December, the beginning of January, like that cusp of a few days, her father died. And I wanted nothing more than to be with her, just to be around her, to to hold her as she was grieving, to be with the family, to to cook with them, to be involved in their services and their ceremonies. It just felt like the most natural thing to do. It just felt like the most right thing to do at that time. So I did. And that was about, maybe about 2 weeks of that. Um, Fast forward a little bit more, I started a gerontology program in the University of Pittsburgh. I got a grant for a graduate certificate in gerontology, which is the study of the elderly. I did not know exactly what that was about, but it but if you know me, I'm someone who finds programs and I'm someone who finds money to go to these programs. So this program just appeared in my mail in my inbox one day. The opportunity for a scholarship appeared. I applied, I got it, so I decided to go to school because why not? That was January 2021. I started that. April 2021, I was so blessed to be able to witness the birth of my goddaughter, my latest goddaughter. She has my mother's name. It was the most, it was the most exhilarating experience. I was there. I saw the baby. I saw her come out. It was amazing. I witnessed the strength of this woman. We fought in the middle of it. We cried. We laughed. It was just a beautiful aesthetic experience. And I remember feeling so high, like high for 3 days. 3 days after it, and I told myself in that 3 days, I only want this. Like I only want experiences that make me feel this alive. And I thought back to how natural it also felt for me to be with my grieving godmother at the beginning of the year. And I decided, I think I'm good at this stuff. Like I'm good at this life death thing. And I figured I probably wouldn't want to go the route of birth doula, just not really my thing. But death doula sound like it fit. I also have an aunt who does something similar, and it's something I was thinking about for a little while. And this experience told me that yes, this is what I want to pursue at this time. Around the summer of 2021, me and my husband got this amazing idea to travel country. He got he accepted a job with a temporary agency that has assignments all around the country. So we figured we just want to pack up. We don't have any kids. Just want to pack up and just every 3 months go to another city, take another assignment. Only ended up going to Philadelphia, from Pittsburgh to Philadelphia. Only ended up going to Philly, stayed there for 2 years just because of how things worked out, but it worked out however it did. So we decided to go, our first assignment was in Philadelphia. And then we figured we'd go there for a couple months and then move around to ultimately take assignments in Florida, because there were a few assignments in Florida, and that's where my father lives. And he was already starting to seem a little, I just didn't like him being down there by himself. He was with family, but he lived alone. And there were already a couple little health scares, so I wanted to be closer to him, and that was our plan. Continue in fall 2021, I continued my schoolwork, and I also started looking into programs, death doula programs that I could enter to be trained formally. I found the International End of Life Death Association, which is INELDA. They also had a scholarship. I told you I'm good at finding those, and so I decided to go with that program and began training in November. Finished my training mid-December. And a week later, my father was admitted to the hospital for signs of stroke. So that was the beginning of about a month and a half of high anxiety, trying to navigate care, calling from Pittsburgh, calling Florida hospitals, trying to make sure that he was okay, talking to nurses, talking to doctors, talking to my uncle, his girlfriend, my aunt. We're all just trying to just do whatever we could. And eventually I bought a ticket to go see him. But in between the time that I got the ticket to see him and me getting down there, he caught COVID and was not allowed to have visitors. So I canceled my ticket until I was able to visit him, and just waited. And this was another, I don't know, another few weeks. I don't know, guys, it's a blur. It was another few weeks of waiting. So at the beginning of February, I got a call that he was able to have visitors. So I booked a ticket that day for 4 days later. I woke up the next day with this really strong urge to see him now, like to see him soon. So I changed my ticket to the nearest time that I could, which was the next morning, and got on a flight to Miami the next morning. I got off the flight, went straight to his bedside. There were only a few more minutes left in his first visitation window. I was able to tell him that I was there. I was able to, I was able to tell him I was there, and told him that I was going to be going to his house to freshen up, and I'll be back for the second um, visitation. Um, Went back to his house, freshened up, ate, met up with his girlfriend. We were on our way. We were walking out the door to go see him for the second visitation, and I got a phone call that he had coded. He was in critical condition. And by the time I got to the hospital, about a 25-minute drive, he had already passed about 8 hours after I got to Florida. So I stayed in Florida for about, I stayed in Florida for a little over a month to arrange his funeral, his burial. I was closing affairs, cleaning the apartment. I distracted myself with coursework because I was still in school at the time. And ironically enough, my class that I was taking at that moment was death and grief for older adults. I went to the beach very often to meditate and to pray. And I also spent a lot of time with his family, who I did not know for the majority of my life. I just got to know these people, and a lot of time cooking for his mother, who was also sick. In March of 2022, I came back home, and that spring and summer was a blur. I cannot tell you what happened. I don't know what was going on. I was in a fog and a haze. But one thing that really stands out to me is in August, another one of my friends lost her father. She was in Philadelphia. So I wanted, again, nothing more than to be around grieving people. So I was able to go. I'm sorry, she wasn't in Philadelphia. She was in New Jersey, but close enough. And I wanted nothing more than to be around her, just to see her face, to be around other grieving people, because that's what you want to do when you're grieving. And this friend just happens to be we've grown very close since then. She is one of the core members of the grief support group, always offering profound insight. We've done 2 events together around grief and death, rituals for Black people, and she also has invited some other core members of the group to the group. So I'm very grateful for her and that connection that we made that summer. In fall 2022, I took a semester off. I was deeply grieving, very sad, felt very lonely. And this is the time where I began searching for community, like an intentional grieving community. And I attended a couple like virtual grief events. I was not in my city, so I guess I just didn't feel comfortable going to things out in person. But I was looking for things, and also you're grieving, you don't have that much energy anyway. So I could log on to something, but going out and finding a community was just not in the cards at the moment. I started to look for different grieving communities online and didn't really find anything that I just didn't find what I was looking for. I also started at this time a monthly ritual of massages. I love me a massage. But they can get a little expensive. So I was like trying out different spas because, you go new, you usually get like a discount. And in me looking for a new spa, I found a place about 2 hours away from where I was in Northeast Pennsylvania, called the Himalayan Institute. And they had all kinds of body work that I was just super excited about. So I looked into the prices. They sound good. I looked at the website a little bit more and thought it was like a retreat center. So I'm like, okay, cool. I can make this into like a week thing. I can get away for a little while, a weekend thing. And I looked around the website a little bit more, and I found that they had a longer kind of a program called the Seva program. And Seva is it's a Hindu or Sikhism concept around community service. And so their Seva program was kind of like a work study program where you could stay there for a minimum of 1 month, which is insane. But I did it, and it was awesome. So I stayed there for a minimum. You can stay there for a minimum of 1 month, and you get discounted everything, discounted room and board, discounted massages, and you also get access to their like daily yoga classes and lectures on the weekend. So I was like, this sounds really cool. It sounds like something I would need. Mind you, also, this is at the very end of the year of me just heavily grieving my dad and not knowing, just walking around in a fog and a funk. So this sounds like something that I wanted to do. I applied in December and I attended in January. Me and my husband, he dropped me off the day before New Year's. We spent New Year's up there, and then he left New Year's Day, and I was there at what we like to call winter camp for a month. It was an amazing experience. It was an amazing experience. It really changed a lot for me in the trajectory of my grieving process. I had, like I said, I was exposed to daily. I had daily yoga, daily meditation. I had 3 nutritious meals that I did not have to cook. That was wonderful. There was very limited access to electronics, and that's not because they took our phones or anything, but because the reception was just awful. And also, it's in the middle of the Pocono Mountains, so just the fresh air was beautiful. Um, the skies, like the stars in the skies. I'm a city girl. I don't see stars like that often. So I was very touched by the stars, and I still am whenever I think about it. I also had a chance to connect with some really beautiful people. There were 3 other women who did the Saver program at the same time that I did. And we all came from just different places in life, but we bonded immediately. We often had little women's circles. There was a guy, like a visitor. A guy came to the retreat, and he's noticed how close we were, and we told him about our circles, and he's like, "Well, what do you guys do there?" And I said, "We just sit in a circle and cry," and that's pretty much really what we did. And it was beautiful. It was really beautiful. And we I think us not knowing each other, we got to see we they were just beautiful people. And I'm grateful to have gotten to know them there, and I'm still in touch with them to this day. There was also a lecture there that I attended called Movement is Medicine by Dr. Teresa Oswald. And that was also profound for me too, because it put what I was experiencing into words. I have a quote from the lecture, and it says, it's very simple, but it was really profound to me, that movement facilitates emotional releases without traumatizing by retelling the story. So I'm releasing and processing all of these emotions or all of these experiences without having to go through the boohoo crying and traumatizing myself by retelling the story. But I can move my body, and I can process that. And I was going through that. I was doing that the whole time, and I had been doing that. It also helped me to connect how in a past life, dancing, exotic dancing, helped me to process some sexual assault that I experienced earlier in my 20s, and just things that I was going through, and things that I had done that I didn't know, but I did it. And just that sentence and that experience really helped me to understand that that's what was going on. So that changed my life. That changed my life. I felt like I was given a beautiful gift in this experience, and I really wanted to share it with people that were close to me, and with my community who don't usually have the access to this experience. So I applied to their yoga teacher training class while I was there. Again, got another scholarship, and was able to start the yoga teacher training classes later on in the fall. So in February of 2023, I came back home from the Institute with a sense of renewal, with clarity, creativity, and motivation to just start working on the many projects that I always have going on at any given time. And I also started my last semester of gerontology. I was also working on a book, and I was excited to get to working on that too. So I came back home and was just like, yeah, let's get this done. And I also began outlining projects for just grief-related projects, including the grief support group. Also, in the time of the spring of 2023, me and my husband decided that our plan of traveling the country just didn't work. It didn't happen the way that we thought it did, but we were grateful that it happened the way that it did. And we decided to come back to Pittsburgh. So in May of 2023, I actually I got the courage enough to hold the first grief group. And I will let you guys know, I thought it went terribly. I was so sick and anxious before and after. I could have thrown up. But I got a lot of really good feedback about it. So I figured, let's just keep trying. Let's keep going. Also, the last day of May, I published my first book, literally 30 minutes before me and my husband got on the turnpike to move back to Pittsburgh. And so June 1st, we were home. We stayed at my mom and stepdad's house, our family house. We stayed at our family house until our apartment was ready in August. And we were just really excited to be home. My family is in Pittsburgh, his family is in Pittsburgh. We were just really excited to be home. But that was very short-lived because 7 days after moving home, my stepfather unexpectedly passed away. He was very sick, and he was often in and out of the hospital. So him going to the hospital wasn't not a very new experience for us. But the night that he went to the hospital this time, I had a dream that my uncle hugged me and he told me that he loved me, or who I thought was my uncle at the time. I don't know. I don't know. But I remember the feeling. I remember the feeling that hug, and I remember waking up thinking about that dream and just it's just And a few seconds after I woke up, my mother called me, and it's like I already knew. Like I just already knew. She called me and she told me to bring my little brother to the hospital. And like I said, I knew what was happening. And the next 24 hours was really, really hard. He was on life support that whole time. My mother made a lot of really hard decisions. We had a lot of really, really tough conversations. She stayed at the hospital, I think, the whole time, but there was a point in that time where I went back home to eat or rest. And also, that was a month from the first grief group. So I had grief group that night, actually. And I could have canceled it, absolutely. And I'm sure people would have understood, but I was so grateful. I was really looking forward to being there with those people. And there were only two people there, but there are two people who, again, are really core people of the group. And I was just very grateful to have had that space already there that was very soft and allowed me to breathe. Yeah. So I went back after the grief group. I went back to the hospital, spent the night there with my mother and my brother, and my stepfather died that early that next morning. The rest of the summer is another blur. I don't remember a lot of it, but another thing that stands out to me that summer was the opportunity to make another connection under unfortunate circumstances, of course, but another this friend from the past, actually a friend of a friend, she lost both of her parents that summer. And I was able to connect with her as well. And that's just something that really stands out to me, being able to connect with another grieving person in such a genuine way, and being allowed to have that connection, for her to be open enough to make that connection with me. She, again, is another person who is very integral to the grief groups now. She brings people in. She always has something profound to say, and just a very beautiful and vulnerable soul who I'm very grateful that I got a chance to connect with. Again, over very sad circumstances, but very genuine nonetheless. So also that year, the end of 2023, I was able to complete my yoga teacher training classes. My husband and I moved out of the family home and into our apartment, and we began our process for fostering, to become foster parents. Other than that, the years of blur as well. At the end of the year, I posted to Facebook and then deleted. Very, very notorious for that. I posted, I'm going to be honest, I never felt so heartbroken as I have this year. Even with accomplishing a lot of goals, everything felt like it was under a gray cloud, and then deleted it. And now it is the middle of 2024, and I still feel that way. I still feel that way. However, just from the beginning of 2024 to now, I became a certified yoga teacher. We became certified foster parents. We've welcomed a total of 6 children into our home. And earlier this month, I became a member of the Pittsburgh Community Death Care, which is a collective of Pittsburgh-based death workers. So I'm really excited about the kind of work that I can do with them. And also, I've never missed the grief group. We've been continuing to hold them monthly. I've had a total of 19 groups. They have been attended by 21 individuals total, with anywhere between 2 to 8 people in a single session. We have extra support groups for holidays if people need extra support. We laugh and we cry. We hold space for whatever comes up. Sometimes it's not death related at all. Um, and I'm just really proud of the community that has formed around me. Um, they show up for themselves and they show up for each other every month, and I'm just blown away. I'm blown away all the time about how healing community is and how healing it is to just to show up, just to be there. I'm really not sure. I'm not sure what going forward my place will be in the death care space. I believe I want to do bedside vigils. Want to incorporate yoga in there somehow uh, into my practice. But no matter what, I just really hope that I can always have these grief groups because they're so special. They're really, really special. And yeah, I just hope that I can continue to hold a space and to create a space and have the space available for us to continue to show up for each other. They've been a lifeline for me in really dark times, and I just hope that we can continue to be there for each other for that. So that's it. That's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much for listening to me, and we got through it together. So thanks, AP.